Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust, and Transparency. Today, I'm going to dive into a live deal that's for sale online that one of you guys has sent through to me and wants to get my 10 cents and opinion on. It's going to be really interesting, and there's a couple of things I've found out just after a quick look that I would want a little bit more information on. Let me know if you agree, what your thoughts and opinions are on. As always, let's dive straight into this one. Okay, so for those of you playing along at home, the address is 47 Granault Parade, Corio Victoria, postcode's 3214. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, 2-car. Now, first and foremost, this is located in Geelong and it is quite a cheap price point. So we'll see what that brings with it. When I look at the floor plate, quite quickly, I notice that this additional bedroom looks like an addition. You would know that when you get on site or you have someone inspect that. I would also check if there is anything, council records, that shows that, because it's a very interesting floor plan to do that. Originally, it looks like it's just sort of been bolted onto the side. Nevertheless, it is quite a pokey floor plan. Obviously, it could do with opening up this wall here. One of the bedrooms is a little bit smaller. We usually look to have a minimum dimension of 3 meters for the bedrooms. Bathroom and toilet is separate. That's cool. Maybe room for a kitchen table and stuff in here, but no doubt practical. And there's no real space lost due to circulation space. Let's walk through a few of the pictures. Now, I can tell by this light here that they haven't cleaned up the darker pixels around the light. So I would say that this is heavily photoshopped. So if you're going through this, don't expect it to be looking this bright and white. The backyard is really good, decent size, lock-up shed, some sort of cabana. It kind of looks like the hot water system is new. 2 things in the backyard just to investigate what they are, if they're sort of sewage, septic tank, or whatever. I'd want to have a closer look at, or get whoever's inspecting it to me to have a look at. Bathroom leaves absolutely nothing for the imagination. Almost looks like a bit of a jail window there. When they don't show you the floor, you know it's bad, and I can tell by these taps and the fact that this was done on top of the original wall. I would be getting some feedback from my property manager whether or not this is the standard and I can get away with this in Corio, or it's something that would need some sort of upgrade. I'll leave that up to you and whether or not you have the cash reserves. Kitchen is almost the same story. Looks very practical in terms of a lino sort of flooring, but the cupboards look relatively new, albeit very interesting and weirdly shaped cupboards. However, play on. There's a little bit of bench space up there. Maybe you could do with like a floating kitchen island, but that doesn't really change the game too much. I noticed on a few older pictures of this particular property that the fireplace has kind of been like closed in or something. So I just want to know what's happening with there. If that's like a glass or what's happening there with that. I can't really see from the photos. Aircon, which is cool. Now, I want to test how good you guys are and what you can spot, because this is something I picked up when I was having a look. This is that extension that I said might need a little bit of work. But I'm going to show you the Google Maps and you tell me if you can see the difference. Okay, so this is the exterior of the house. And this is what it looks like from the street. Now, in terms of the street, it doesn't look like a main road. There's one set of power lines on the opposite side, which is cool. Normal suburban street, looks relatively decent. No bad neighbors or anything like that. We've got a tree at the front. Now, if I'm going to buy this and own it, I want to be proactive and get this tree trimmed back, because I know in a storm that could cause myself a power issue. But I want to see how switched on you guys are. This is the front on Google Maps 2023. All right. This is the real estate photo. What do you notice? Can you notice what I notice? I'll show you one last time. Listed photo, look at the house, tell me what you can see. And this is the Google photo. Now, this is what's concerning and what the agent or the owner has tried to conceal, in my opinion. Maybe they've tried to fix it. I don't know. But I need to be very careful here. It appears that this chimney has massive, major cracks in it. I don't know if this is a wire here or this is a crack. Right? Big cracks in the chimney. What have they done here? They've covered it in some sort of, it almost looks timber-like structure on the outside, and it's been freshly painted. So that was one thing that I noticed that I went, oh, that's a little bit sneaky. Apart from that, there's no, in my opinion, big issues with the street. It looks tidy. It looks clean. The next layer is going to be public housing. Now, luckily enough, we know it's on Granite Parade. This particular area only has 5.2% public housing. Not huge, not a big risk at all. I also like from a Google Maps perspective, in terms of, and I always think about circulation when you're looking at a house and a car on the street. When I'm driving out and I need to go to the shops, I can quite easily exit here, and I can get to the shops. If I didn't have these offshoots here, then you got to be careful because you look here. This is blocked off and I got to go down to here, but then how can I turn around? You know? So it's just something to notice. It's near the athletics field and the TAFE, and near the Woolies and Coles and supermarket and that. It's cool. It's got a Kmart service station. No real big issues on the street, in my opinion. Normal, slow suburban street. Love a little bit of development there. Same there. Not bad at all. No concerns with public housing. Now, when I have a proper look at it, I actually found this overlay here. Right? And you're thinking, now, I had a look at the other ones. It's clear from bushfire. It's clear from flooding. But this overlay was interesting. This is actually what's called the airport environs overlay. Because obviously, if we zoom out a little bit, my friends, we have Avalon Airport. Where are we? We have Avalon Airport just there. And it tells me that this overlay identifies sites that are or will be impacted by high levels of aircraft noise. So, is it an issue? A little bit. I'd need to get on the ground to know or talk to people a little bit further if I think that's an issue. But that's sort of an amber flag. I'd say amber flag, investigate a little bit further. Now, apart from that, the chimney, potentially the extension, here's my main worry about this particular deal. I'm on hashtag and I'm going through the data. Now, we know that it is a low socio, very cheap, sub 600 typical price. A couple things that worry me. So the population size is okay. Infrastructure spend's not bad. As I said, no bushfire or flood risk. But here's what bothers me a little bit. So I look at the growth rate cycle and I say, wow, this particular area is extremely volatile. It's spent 5 years not doing much. Then it's up, then it's down, then it's up, then it's down. We know this is COVID here, but if we sort of block that off and we look backwards, it's a little bit sporadic, which tells me, boom, okay, it is an ERSAT of 1, so it's a very low socio-economic area. We know that because we're looking in 550 and below. A very cautious thing to note as well is a 40% renter to owner ratio. So that's almost like a supply metric where there is 40% a landlord. So what's going to happen for this particular market if there's, that's very high? What's going to happen to this particular market if there's a mass exodus from Victoria with maybe more land tax or interest rates, then you risk a flooding of the market. When I look at demand profile, it's solely for 3-bedders. And another issue that I have is it is 40 years to own in terms of affordability, with the lowest URSAD and a lot of renters in there. So my question to you, if you're going to invest and buy this deal, would be, how is the prices in Corio going to grow? Because it is clearly extremely unaffordable. Now, even in a lower socioeconomic, I can expect to see that at 35, but 40, starting to get really unaffordable. Obviously, there's a lot of renters when it's such a cheap area, because that's people that can't afford it. That's where they live. But at 40, low URSAD, 40%, there's just a couple of amber flags here. Let's look at the rest of the data. Building approvals are decreasing. What's the hold period? 9 years. Okay. Stock on market is decreasing. There's only 16 listings. Inventory's decreasing as well. Building approvals are, as I said, low. 35 days on market. So days on market the last 12 months have been decreasing, which is cool. 32 days on market. And vacancy rate. Vacancy rate has been climbing steadily, and the last 4 months have been decreasing. So, look, it is an interesting market. Do I think there's growth in this market? Yes. But you need to ask yourself, who are the people that are driving that growth? Because long-term, investors could be diving into this. But long-term, does this suburb have legs if it's 40 years to own in terms of affordability? That's the question that you need to be comfortable with answering if you're going to invest here. I know that around, $600K and cheaper, there's markets that have affordability closer to 30, under 30, with higher URSADs and lower renter to owner ratios. So for me, how I usually end these is, would I invest here? Would I buy this particular property? Would I buy 47 Grenoble Parade? Personally, for my circumstance, and particularly if it's a long-term hold, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't personally buy it because of those things that we've discussed. But that's my thoughts on it. Now, if you're comfortable with the data, it's going to be a very colourful, in my opinion, building in pest. I just asked them to have a look into the chimney, the extension, and obviously there's things here that I won't look at in this particular session. For example, it might be, the contract and all those sorts of risks that you need to mitigate. But that's sort of where I'd leave, and that's what my thoughts are. Definitely get a building and pest done. Check out the chimney. Check out that fireplace inside, because you saw, and even thinking about it now logically, that could be why this is being boarded up. Is there an issue with the fireplace that they're trying to hide? They've boarded it up here and they've put lipstick on a pig on the outside. Something to think about the structural integrity of that, this extension, those couple of things in the backyard. And then I'd be talking to the local property managers regarding flight noise and if that is a particular risk. As always, if you think that is maybe a risk, I don't know if it would be an insurance risk, but you can punch it in an insurance calculator to see if there's a premium that they put on that just because it's got an overlay, just to double check yourself. But as always, if you've got another deal and you want to hear my thoughts, this is essentially me thinking out loud. Hit me up, let me know, and happy to help. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow.